Hi, this is Destry LeBrun from the Empowerment Parent Resource Center based in Pensacola, Florida. We are a resource center for families who have members that have special needs, diagnosed disabilities. Today I'd like to show you an interview done by Ginger Manley, who works at FND. That's Family Network on Disabilities. You can find them at fndusa.com. The project she works on is called POPIN, Parents of the Panhandle Information Network. Now, this interview has a lot of great information for everybody. However, it's geared towards fathers of families who have somebody in their family who has a diagnosed disability. There's a lot of things that Michael has done that he would have done differently had he known a little bit more, been a little bit more educated, and maybe had a little more experience with people with disabilities. He didn't know what to do. So that's why this interview has been created, to give a heads up, if you will, to fathers who find themselves with a family member who has a disability. He's very encouraging. He has a lot of encouraging words, a lot of encouraging life experience that he has gone through that he would like to share with you. He has some practical ideas that we know will be helpful to you. So take a look, and at the end, if you'll come back and fill out a survey for us to let us know what it is that you'd like to see us do next in this medium, so you can educate yourself and perhaps educate others about how to be a better advocate, a better family member, a better life coach for your family, and especially for the person in your family with a special need. Thanks. We hope you enjoy.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me for another Facebook Live with Poppin. My name is Ginger Manley, and I am a parent trainer for FND, which is the Family Network on Disabilities. And the program that I'm with is Poppin, which is Parents of the Panhandle Information Network. And today I'm going to do a little bit something different. I'm going to do an interview called Dadvocate, and I have the pleasure of getting to interview someone that I very much enjoy talking to every time I get a chance to do that. Michael Collins is joining me today. And Michael, I'm going to go ahead and just let you introduce yourself. We have a lot of things in common we discovered. One of them is the fact that we live on the same street, so that's good. And another thing that we have in common is we both wear a lot of hats in the things we do. So I'm going to let you talk about that and some of the great things that you do.
Great. Ginger, I'm so glad to be with you. Again, my name is Michael Collins. I have 3 adult sons. My oldest son is 42. His name is Jeffrey. Matter of fact, Monday he turns 43. And Jeffrey has multiple diagnoses. He has cerebral palsy and obsessive compulsive disorder and several other challenges. And I'm delighted to be with you and talk about some of the things that dads can do to be supportive of families with children with special needs and disabilities. Professionally, I'm a pastor at a church named Charity Chapel. As a volunteer, I work at Project Empower and the Empowerment Parent Resource Center, which is a resource for parents in Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton counties in Northwest Florida. And it's my passion to just help families navigate through the challenges that we have as families today. So Ginger, I'm glad to be with you.
Thank you again. I always love talking with you, so thank you. One of the things I wanted to ask you, I know that this is kind of a touchy subject with some families, but how did you first realize that your son had a disability? How was that brought to your attention?
Well, I'll be glad to tell you about that. Now, I'm just going to be very authentic about my own experience. First off, we were very young. My wife and I were married when she was 18 and I was 19. It had never entered our mind that we might have a child with special needs. So when he was born, when I was about 21, Jeffrey, our first son, first off, it was our first child. I had no really awareness of the milestones that normal adults are aware of. And I was also working 3 jobs and going to grad school at the time. And so really what happened is I abdicated all of that to my wife. And we happened to be living in New Orleans. So I was in graduate school seminary at that time. And in our quadruplex, I should say, 3 of the 4 apartments had children exactly the same age. So my wife had first her intuition as a mother, her experience as a human, and the looking at the other 3 children that were in our quadruplex. And she was very aware very early that our son had some special needs. Now, I would not want to be offensive to anybody. I'm just trying to be authentic about my own journey. As a Christian, I'm a person of faith, but often we use things in inappropriate ways. And so what I did, what I thought was faith was actually denial. I like to tell people now that I have a PhD in denial. So when our child was 8 months old, we had the first doctor say to us that your child had developmental delays. And I absolutely completely rejected that diagnosis. My assumption was he was fine, he'd just grow out of it. Developmental delays at that time meant to me that he'd be better later. Now, I look back on that journey, and really what I'd done unintentionally is I abandoned my wife in that emotional journey. And I stayed in that mode until Jeff was about 4.5. Now, I know that sounds insane, but what I did is I built a whole world around guarding myself from that diagnosis. Like Jeffrey at 4.5 could not walk, was not toilet trained. But what I would do, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but it's the truth. I would carry Jeff into a doctor's appointment, put him on the table. The doctor would never ask me, could he walk? So I never told him he couldn't. He never asked me, was he toilet trained? So I never told him he wasn't. My wife, by that time, was really preoccupied with 2 younger children, because we had 3. So she had an infant and a toddler. And I sort of took responsibility. But really, the reality was I was trying to guard myself from the painful emotion that my child might have a disability. And I was spending tons of energy in denial. So when Jeff was about 4.5 years old, my wife, who is a saint, by the way, my wife is now an ESE, or Exceptional Student Education registered nurse with the Escambia County School System for the last 22 years. Before that, she worked as a neonatal nurse. But at this time in our journey, she was a full-time homemaker. And she came to me and made an appeal, said, Jeffrey's 4.5, he's not toilet trained, he doesn't walk, he should start kindergarten in a few months. And that really broke through my denial. Now, what I would say to help parents in this process is, first off, I'm so thankful that my wife did not give up on me in my persistent, absolute abdication of that role of being her partner in the journey. Second off, I really appreciated her helping me come to an awareness that we really did need to get some help. So Ginger, what we did is we reached out. I didn't know what to do. So I picked up the phone and called the school system and said, what does one do when one's child is not ready for school? That's all I knew to ask. I had no vocabulary. I knew no one with a disability, not personally, and I had no vocabulary. They sent Child Find to our home, which is a outreach of Fiddlers, or the Florida Diagnostic Learning Resource Systems. And that Child Find specialist helped navigate us through the next days and getting Jeff into a program, and life became a lot better. I realized that all the energy I was spending in denying was really absorbing tremendous amount of my emotional landscape. And of course, I was confusing this whole time what I was thinking was faith. I was using anything as a cover for my denial. But that changed. And And I began to learn what it meant to become a partner in that process. And my wife and I, by the time Jeff was now, he was 5, we began to partner for a way that we had never partnered before. And by the way, that was completely and totally and absolutely me. She had tried for years, but I was very incalcitrant. I was very resistant. And by the way, I look back.
I think that's really common with dads. Well, for some dads, I know that we had that same kind of experience. First-time mom, first-time child. I know now that Ian was exhibiting kind of those typical autism tendencies, but I didn't know it at the time. You know, they were cute. He was doing cute little stemming things, but somewhere in me, I did feel like there was something else going on, and I didn't know what that was. And like you, I didn't have that vocabulary, or I didn't know any other children with disabilities. So I didn't know, and if you don't know, you don't know. And when I brought that to my husband and said, hey, I think there's something going on with Ian, but I'm not quite sure, his response, was, no, he'll be fine. Just give him a little time. He'll grow into it. Just, that's a boy thing, sweetheart. Just give him a moment. He'll be okay.
We had that same conversation multiple times.
Exactly. And I think that's really common. And I said, okay, because I come from a family of all girls, and so I don't know boys. And I said, okay, that's a boy thing. And he goes, yeah, he'll grow into it. He'll be fine. And a little bit more time went by, and a little bit more time went by. And we got into some services through the military. And it was at that point in time that program, the lady that was helping us said, Ginger, your son's not reaching some milestones. I'm concerned about this. And that's how we got into providing him the early intervention services, because I thought, well, I don't know what's going on, but I want to give him every tool that I possibly can in order for him to be successful. And maybe he will grow into it, like my husband says, that he feels like he will, and maybe not, but nothing that I'm doing right now is going to hurt him. It's only going to help him. So that's kind of how we rolled into it. And it took a really long time for Chris to be on board with that. And I think he really took it personal that he failed his kids. And I know that a lot of times dads can feel like that.